Hello, everyone. How are you doing? First of all, thank you so much for 10,000 subscribers. I really appreciate all the support. Someone asked to do this video. I found this novel, but it wasn't complete, so I decided to create two alternative endings for it. Both endings will be in the video, so you can choose which one you like the most. The year I loved Michael Carter the most, he broke his leg and was stabbed multiple times just to save me, nearly losing his life. To avenge him, I shot our enemy and desecrated his grave. For that, I spent 5 years in prison. 5 years later, when I was released, I thought I'd be greeted by Michael's long-lost devotion. Instead, what awaited me was his new lover 5 months pregnant. You're Michael's ex-girlfriend, Rachel Evans? She sized me up with disdain, pinching her nose as if the air itself offended her. A woman with a criminal record doesn't deserve to stand beside Michael. At her arrogance, I slapped her across the face. You think you're even worthy of saying my name? Rachel. Before I could continue, Michael's voice came, low and grim, as he strode forward to help Olivia white up from the sofa. Olivia's pregnancy sickness is severe. She can't stand certain smells. Rachel, go wash up first. Rachel, Olivia isn't like us. She's cleaner than either of us. Seeing the cold distance in his eyes, I laughed. In that case, let's break up. Michael froze, then ordered someone to take Olivia away before turning to me. Olivia was just an accident. Rachel, I told you alive. You belong to me. Dead, you're my ghost. That same line echoed in my ears. He had said it 5 years ago when he saved me. Hearing it again now, it only struck me as absurd. Is that so? I stepped closer, locking eyes with him. In that case, bring out the woman named Olivia White. Rachel, stop. I told you she was just an accident. Michael frowned and brushed a hand through my messy hair. Stop. I knocked his hand away, smirking. Harris, bring her back. At my order, Mr. Harris brought Olivia back into the room. Without hesitation, I grabbed a knife from the table and drove it straight into Olivia. Blood sprayed from her abdomen, splattering across my face. Rachel Evans, what the hell are you doing? Michael lunged forward, pinning me against the wall, his hands crushing my shoulders. You said she was an accident, Michael. I helped you take care of the accident. Shouldn't you be thanking me? I stared into his bloodshot eyes, then shoved the blade into his shoulder. Hearing his muffled groan, I laughed. The small one I've dealt with. As for the big one, will you do it yourself, or should I do it for you? Michael, I'm in pain. She killed our baby. Michael, kill her. Olivia's cries tore through the air from the pool of blood on the floor. So this was his so-called clean woman. Always screaming about killing cleaner than us, indeed. I glanced at Olivia writhing in pain, then shifted my gaze back to Michael. Choose one. Michael's brows knitted tight. Rachel, you've gone too far this time. He ripped the knife from his shoulder, warm blood splattering across my face again. Rachel, you just got out. You should rest at home. Without another look at me, he turned and gently scooped Olivia into his arms, his voice soft and soothing. It's okay, I'm here. That voice clenched at my chest, painfully familiar. Back then, when he was dying in front of me, he wiped away my tears with the same words. Rachel, it's okay. I'm here. So he really could say the exact same thing to another woman. Watching Michael carry Olivia out to the mansion gates, I raised my hand, and my men quickly surrounded them. Sorry, Michael. At that signal, they launched their attack. Michael had once been my father's second-in-command, and these men had shared life-and-death battles with him. Yet for Olivia, he didn't hesitate. He kicked one of them away and broke through with her in his arms. In that moment, it felt like 5 years ago again, when he had stormed a warehouse single-handedly just to rescue me from kidnappers. I collapsed to the ground, watching his vanishing back. After holding it in for so long, my tears finally broke free. Wiping my face roughly, I stood. Harris had already ordered the blood cleaned from the floor. Out of the shower, I washed away 5 years of grime. But my phone buzzed on the bed, over and over. It was a photo from an unknown number. The pale face in it was one I knew all too well. Don't think getting rid of my baby means Michael will return to you. He said once I recover, we'll have a third child. He nearly died giving me a blood transfusion. Rachel Evans, no matter how much you once meant to him, now Michael loves only me. The final image was Olivia and Michael holding hands, fingers entwined, with a dazzling diamond ring flashing on her finger. I screenshotted everything Olivia had sent me and forwarded it to Michael. Staring at that radiant diamond, I tossed the matching necklace and earrings into the trash. I had designed them myself. Michael had spent 3 sleepless nights crafting them by hand. He once told me he'd place the ring on my finger when we married. But now the ring sat on another woman's hand, and the rest felt dirty to me. That night, lying in bed, I received Michael's reply. She's just a young woman who lost her child. She's upset. Why stoop to her level? Seeing his words of defense, I laughed coldly and shut off my phone. For several days, Michael didn't return. When he finally did, his pale face was etched with anxiety. What is it? Your delicate flower died? Or are you here to take revenge on me? I trimmed fresh lilies without looking at him. Lilies were good, unlike roses. They weren't ostentatious. Olivia's missing. Michael's voice was hoarse. I didn't stop my work. So, you think I kidnapped your delicate flower? Rachel, I told you Olivia isn't like us. She's clean. He rushed forward and grabbed the scissors from my hand. Rachel, don't hurt her. Please. That word please froze me. Even when I was kidnapped, he had never begged anyone. Yet now, for another woman, he begged me. The pain pierced my chest like 1,000 arrows. I looked up, meeting his desperate eyes, then twisted the scissors in my hand. The tip pressed into his chest. Michael, wasn't stabbing your shoulder last time painful enough? Blood from old and new wounds spread across Michael's white shirt like a blooming crimson rose. I smiled. Yes, I had always preferred roses. Rachel, have you calmed down? Will you tell me where Olivia is now? Michael groaned, sweat dripping from his brow. I twisted the scissors in his chest. And if I say no? Rachel Evans, you dash. Mr. Carter, Miss Olivia has been found. Before Michael could finish, one of his men rushed in. The instant Olivia's name was mentioned, light flickered in Michael's shadowed eyes. He yanked the scissors from his chest and flung them to the ground. The sharp clatter echoed like the shattering of my heart. Rachel Evans. At the doorway, he paused, his voice colder than ice. I'll get to the bottom of this. I hope it really had nothing to do with you. Olivia was brought back, one hand bandaged, her tearful face pressed against Michael's chest. He sat across from me, half his face hidden in shadow. His voice was low. Rachel, why? His fingers tapped the marble tabletop, a habit whenever he tried to suppress his anger. I took a drag from my cigarette, then snuffed it out. So, Michael, you think this was me? If not you, then who else? She's just a young girl. I'm the one who's guilty, not her. Whatever you have against me, take it out on me. Why hurt her again and again? Michael tightened his hold around Olivia. The diamond ring on his long fingers glinted like a knife to my chest. I remembered that rainy night years ago when I was ambushed and bleeding out. He had shielded me, shouting, "A group of men ganging up on one woman? Come at me instead." That night, he saved me. That night, I gave myself to him. But now, those same words were spoken for another woman. I said nothing. I walked into the kitchen. When I returned, I slammed Olivia's uninjured hand onto the table. Before anyone could react, the knife came down, piercing through her hand. Ah, dash. Olivia's shriek tore through the air. Michael, Rachel Evans, don't deny what I do. Since you claim it was me, then I'll make it true. As for your dog Dash, I arched a brow at Olivia's bandaged arm. She knows best how she got that injury. I ripped the knife free, blood splattering across me. Filthy. I tossed the knife aside and turned to change clothes. But Michael's men restrained me. Rachel, this is the second time. Michael picked up the knife, striding toward me. So, what if it's the second time? I looked straight at him, yanking free of his men and rubbing my sore wrist. What is it, Michael? You want revenge? I placed my hand on the table. Michael Carter, do it. He froze when he saw my hand outstretched. Step by step, he walked toward me with a knife. His hand rose, blade poised, but just inches from me he stopped. Pressing his lips together, he dropped the knife and turned to Olivia White. Rachel, one last time. I'll give you one last chance. His voice was soft, yet it pierced straight into my ears. Watching him support Olivia as they left, and seeing her cast me that sorrowful, resentful look over her shoulder, pain nearly suffocated me. After that, Michael didn't return home for several days. Meanwhile, I tried to adjust to life outside of prison. But I never expected Olivia to show up a week later, holding my parents' heirloom jewelry. Be smart and hand it back to me? I aimed my gun at her, but she only covered her mouth and laughed. Rachel Evans, Michael loves me. Why won't you just leave? My business with him is none of yours. Give it back. The bullet was already chambered. And if I say? Olivia's smile widened. With a sharp crack, the bracelet shattered into pieces. At the same instant, without hesitation, I pulled the trigger. As the deafening gunshot tore through the air, a dark blur rushed in front of me. Michael shielded, Olivia with his body. The bullet grazed his shoulder, blood seeping out. Rachel, have you had enough? He held Olivia protectively behind him, his gaze sharp and dangerous, like a wolf. Michael, if you can't control your delicate flower, then I'll do it for you. I pointed at the shattered fragments on the ground. We could have stayed in peace, but your delicate flower insisted on coming here to court death. Shouldn't I grant her wish? Michael's eyes flickered at the broken pieces, but he quickly regained his calm. Your parents have been dead for years. Keeping things from the dead around only brings bad luck. Michael, I dare you to say that again. His words made my blood run cold. He had gone through fire with my father. My father had saved him more than once. And yet, now he said this. Unable to contain the storm inside me, I fired again. Look out, Dash. The thunderous sound echoed once more, but Olivia shoved Michael aside at the last second. The bullet missed him, grazing her pale neck instead, streaks of blood trickling down. Rachel Evans. Michael's eyes burned red as he saw her blood. He rushed forward and clamped his hand around my throat. Why? Why do you always have to hurt her? His furious eyes made my heart ache. This was the second time he had raised his hand against me for Olivia. All that for just a scratch? I arched a brow. Kill me then. Make way for the two of you. Rachel, don't push me. I knew Michael wouldn't kill me, just as I knew that even with Olivia by his side, he still loved me. The madness we once shared couldn't be replaced by Olivia. Shaking, he released me, then lifted Olivia into his arms. Rachel, I'll make sure Olivia disappears from your sight. But you stop hurting her. His voice was hoarser than ever. Holding her tighter, he looked back at me from the shadows, his eyes unreadable. Then you'd better hide her well. I clutched my throat, concealing the pain inside. Michael said nothing more, carrying Olivia out of the mansion. He truly kept his word. For many days after, I didn't see Olivia again. Michael came home every day bringing me flowers, eating with me. He even bought another bracelet to replace the broken heirloom, but I threw it straight into the trash. What's broken can never be restored. After a week of uneasy calm, disaster struck. I was kidnapped by Olivia. A bag was thrown over my head, and I was dragged to an abandoned factory. When the bag was ripped off, I saw her devilish smile. Rachel Evans, I gave you a chance to leave. Since you didn't, don't blame me for this. She gripped my jaw, her nails digging into my flesh, blood trickling down her fingers. Olivia White, aren't you afraid Michael will find out you kidnapped me? Afraid? Of course I'm afraid. She laughed wildly. But I already told Michael. He's on his way right now. Tell me between us, who will he choose? Oh, right. She released my chin and wiped my blood off with a tissue. Rachel, let me show you something. She motioned, and a man stepped out of the shadows. My eyes widened. He was one of the men I'd shot down 5 years ago. He handed Olivia a black object. When I recognized it, my pupils shrank. It was the urn of my parents' ashes I had buried with my own hands. Olivia, don't you dare. Why wouldn't I? She laughed, her smile cruel. With a flick of her hand, the urn arced through the air, smashing into pieces on the ground. For a moment, my heart stopped beating. Olivia White, I'll kill you. I struggled, my voice raw and broken. Kill me? Let's see which of us dies first. She stuffed a rag into my mouth and ordered her men to tie her to a chair as well. I don't know how much time passed before I heard Michael's frantic voice. Rachel? Olivia? He kicked the factory door open, his figure rushing in just like 5 years ago when he saved me. Well, Michael, you got here earlier than I thought, the man sneered, pressing a gun to both my head and Olivia's. If not for you, our boss wouldn't have been gunned down by this bitch. But I'm merciful. Choose one. The sound of bullets being chambered filled the air. Michael, save me. I don't want to die. Olivia sobbed beside me, writhing. I saw Michael's gaze shift between us, then settle coldly. Let Olivia go. His choice made, Olivia was shoved into his arms. Ha ha ha, and they said you were faithful. Guess not. The man pulled the trigger. In the nick of time, I cut through my bonds and grabbed the gun. 2 shots rang out. The man fell to the floor, dead. Gun in hand, I stepped toward Olivia. But Michael shielded her tightly. Michael, move aside. I raised my gun. Olivia had destroyed my parents' ashes. I would not let her walk away unpunished. Rachel. Move. Michael opened his mouth as if to speak, but I didn't want to hear. If even now he still wanted to protect Olivia, then I had no reason to hold back. The bullet was chambered. Rachel, wait. But before I could pull the trigger, Olivia's laughter cut through the air, cold, calculating, nothing like the sobbing victim she'd been moments before. Oh, Rachel. Sweet, stupid Rachel. You still don't understand, do you? Her tears had vanished completely. The trembling girl was gone, replaced by someone with predatory eyes and a twisted smile. Olivia? Michael's voice was uncertain, his protective hold on her loosening. Tell me, Rachel, she continued, stepping out of Michael's embrace without fear. Did you ever wonder how those men found you 5 years ago? How they knew exactly where you'd be that night? My blood turned to ice. It was supposed to be simple. Kill Rachel Evans, collect the bounty from the Torino family. But Michael had to play hero. She glanced at him with mock affection. Nearly got himself killed saving his precious little princess. You're lying, I whispered, but my voice cracked. Am I? Olivia tilted her head. The warehouse address. The exact time you'd arrive. Even which car you'd be driving. They knew everything, Rachel. Because I told them. The gun trembled in my hands. 5 years ago, I was Vincent Torino's woman. Did you think killing him would end it? The Torinos don't forgive. They don't forget. And they certainly don't let some gang boss's daughter walk away after putting a bullet in their ear. Michael took a step back from her, his face pale with realization. So I waited. 5 long years, I waited for you to get out of prison. And when you did... She gestured to her belly, though it was flat now, no longer swollen with pregnancy. I made myself indispensable to your precious Michael. The baby. Michael's voice was barely audible. Never existed. Olivia laughed. Amazing what a pillow and good acting can do. Though I must say, the miscarriage scene was my finest performance. You bought every second of it. I watched Michael's world crumble in his eyes. The woman he'd chosen over me, the woman he'd protected and cherished, she was the architect of all our pain. But why? The question tore from my throat. Because watching you suffer was sweeter than simply killing you. Every day Michael chose me over you was another nail in your heart. Every time he said my name with tenderness, while looking at you with cold indifference, it was beautiful. She pulled a phone from her pocket, showing us a recording. Vincent may be dead, but his brothers aren't. They've been watching, waiting. And tomorrow, they'll finish what we started 5 years ago. The recording played Vincent Torino's voice from beyond the grave, his final instructions echoing in the abandoned factory. If anything happens to me, make Rachel Evans suffer first. Then kill her slowly. Olivia pocketed the phone, her smile never wavering. But there's more, isn't there? She said, looking directly at Michael. Tell her about the deal you made with the Torinos, Michael. Tell her why you really took 5 years to visit her in prison. Exactly once. Michael's silence was deafening. No. I breathed. Oh yes. Michael Carter, my father's most trusted lieutenant, made a bargain. Keep Rachel in the dark about who really set her up, and the Torinos would let her serve her time in peace. Cross them, and they'd have her killed behind bars. My legs nearly gave out. Michael? He finally looked at me, his eyes filled with a pain that matched my own. I had to keep you alive, Rachel. It was the only way. By letting me think you'd abandoned me? By letting me believe you'd moved on. I visited you once to make sure you were okay. But I couldn't risk coming again. If they suspected I still cared. So you found yourself a replacement, I said bitterly. She found me, Michael said, his gaze shifting to Olivia with new understanding. She knew exactly what to say, exactly how to act. She knew about the jewelry I'd made for you, knew about our history. Because I've been watching for years, Olivia interrupted. Learning every detail of your pathetic love story, so I could twist it into something ugly. She moved closer to the scattered ashes of my parents, grinding them under her heel. Did you know I was there the night your parents died, Rachel? Car accidents are so convenient. A little mechanical sabotage, the right curve at the right speed. The confession hit me like a physical blow. You killed them. The Torinos killed them. I just watched. I was only 17 then, Vincent's newest pet. He wanted your father's territory, and dead men can't hold territory. My finger tightened on the trigger, but Olivia held up a hand. Kill me, and you'll never find their real remains. Yes, Rachel, those weren't your parents' ashes. I had those cremated 5 years ago when I scattered their bodies in the ocean. The gun wavered in my hands. Even in death, she'd stolen them from me. Where are they? Safe. Waiting. Kill me, and they stay lost forever. But cooperate, and maybe, just maybe, I'll tell you where to find what's left. The factory fell silent, except for the sound of my ragged breathing. Everything I'd believed, everything I'd suffered for, it was all built on Olivia's lies. You have until dawn, she continued, checking her watch with theatrical flair. The Torinos will be here at sunrise. You can spend your last night hunting me, or you can spend it with the man you love, knowing the truth at last. She backed toward a side exit, her confidence unshakable. Oh, and Rachel? That heirloom bracelet I broke? It wasn't even real. I had a replica made and switched them months ago. The real one, your mother's real bracelet, is with her body, wherever that might be. As she reached the door, she paused. Michael, you should have chosen better. But then again, you always were too noble for your own good. The door slammed behind her, leaving Michael and me alone with the weight of 5 years of deception. For a long moment, neither of us moved. Then Michael stepped toward me, his movements careful, as if approaching a wounded animal. Rachel, don't. I kept the gun raised, though my hands were shaking. Just don't. Everything I did was to keep you alive. Everything you did was to keep yourself from having to choose. The words exploded out of me. You let me think you'd replace me. You let me think you'd stopped loving me. Do you have any idea what that did to me in that cell, night after night? Michael's composure finally cracked. You think it was easy? You think watching you hate me didn't tear me apart? I chose to let you hate me because the alternative was watching you die. And Olivia? Was supposed to be cover. A way to keep the Torinos convinced I'd moved on, that I wouldn't interfere with their revenge. He ran his hands through his hair. But she knew exactly what to do, exactly what to say. She made herself indispensable, made me believe she was carrying my child. Did you sleep with her? The question cut like glass. Michael's hesitation was answer enough. I laughed bitterly. Thorough cover story. Rachel, please. Let me explain. Explain what? That you sacrificed 5 years of our lives based on a threat from dead men? That you let their puppet manipulate you into her bed? That my parents are still lost because you were too afraid to trust me with the truth? I lowered the gun, suddenly exhausted. I spent 5 years in prison, Michael. 5 years planning our future, believing that when I got out, we'd finally be free to love each other without fear. Instead, I found you playing house with my parents' murderer. What do you want me to say?
His voice was raw.
That I should have let them kill you? That I should have risked your life for honesty, I screamed. For trusting that we were strong enough to face it together. The silence stretched between us like a chasm. Dawn was breaking through the factory windows when we heard the vehicles approaching. At least 6 engines, maybe more. Michael moved to the window, his expression grim. Torinos. They're early. I'd spent the night torn between fury and heartbreak, but now, facing death, clarity came like ice water in my veins. How many? I asked, checking my ammunition. Too many. He turned to me, his eyes holding 5 years of regret. Rachel, there's a service tunnel in the basement. You can.
No.
I stood, feeling strangely calm. I'm done running. If they want me, they can have me. But they'll pay the price. This is suicide. Maybe. Or maybe it's finally taking control of my own story. The factory doors exploded open. Men in dark suits poured in, guns drawn, led by a face I recognized from old photographs. Marco Torino, Vincent's eldest brother. Rachel Evans, he called out, his voice echoing in the vast space. 5 years overdue for justice. I stepped into the light, gun at my side, but ready. Justice? You mean revenge for your piece of shit brother who tried to have a teenager killed? Vincent was worth 10 of you. Vincent was a coward who couldn't face my father in an honest fight. Marco's face darkened. Where's the white girl? She promised us you'd be alone. I felt Michael tense beside me.
Gone.
She got what she wanted. to watch us destroy each other. Why would she stick around for the cleanup? Clever girl. Shame will have to kill her too, eventually. Loose ends and all. One of Marco's men whispered something in his ear. His expression shifted. Well, seems our little Olivia left us a parting gift. He held up a detonator. She wired this whole place to blow. Timer's already running. We have. He checked his watch. 3 minutes to finish this and get out. I looked at Michael, seeing my own realization reflected in his eyes. Olivia had never intended to let any of us survive. She'd engineered our mutual destruction from the very beginning. 2 minutes 50 seconds, Marco announced. Time to decide, Rachel Evans. Quick death from my bullet or slow death from the flames. Either way, you're paying for Vincent's life. I raised my gun and the standoff began. But as I stared down the barrels of 6 weapons, I found myself thinking not of death, but of something else entirely. Something Olivia had said about my mother's real bracelet. If she was telling the truth about that, maybe she'd been telling the truth about something else too. And maybe there was still one card left to play. 2 minutes. Marco called out, his men fanning out to surround us. But I wasn't looking at them anymore. I was staring at the scattered ashes on the ground, the fake ashes Olivia had desecrated. Something about her confession nagged at me, a detail that didn't fit. Marco. I called out, lowering my gun slightly. Tell me something. When Vincent died, what exactly did he tell you about my father's last deal? Marco's eyes narrowed. What game are you playing, girl? Humor a dying woman. What did Vincent say about the territorial agreement my father was negotiating? That your father was trying to cut the Torinos out of the port deal. Greedy bastard wanted it all for himself. I almost smiled. There it was, the lie that had started everything. Michael, I said quietly, remember what my father told you the night before he died? About the documents he hid? Michael's eyes widened with understanding. The port contracts, he said. He said he was giving the Torinos majority control because he was getting out of the business. I raised my voice so Marco could hear. My father wasn't cutting you out. He was retiring and handing you the biggest prize in the city. Bullshit, Marco snarled, but uncertainty flickered in his eyes. The contracts are in a safety deposit box. Box 247 at First National. Vincent killed my father one day before he was going to sign over everything to your family. Marco's gun wavered. You're lying. 1 minute 30. One of his men called out. Think about it, Marco. Why would Olivia White, a woman who never met any of us before 5 years ago, know so much about our family's history? Why would she have detailed information about deals made when she was still a teenager? I took a step forward, and surprisingly, Marco didn't fire. Because she wasn't working for Vincent. She was working for someone else. Someone who wanted both our families to destroy each other. 1 minute. Michael caught on. The Koreans. They've been trying to muscle in on port operations for years. Vincent was an idiot, I continued, my voice growing stronger. But he wasn't stupid enough to kill over a deal he was already winning. Someone fed him false information. Someone who benefited from the Torino-Evans war. Marco's face was pale now. The Kim Syndicate. 50 seconds. Olivia White doesn't exist, I said. I'm willing to bet if you dig into her background, you'll find she's really Kim Sun-hee. She's been playing a very long game. Marco lowered his gun completely. If you're right, then we've all been her puppets. And right now, she's probably watching from a safe distance, waiting for us all to die in her little fireworks show. 40 seconds. The tunnel, Michael shouted, grabbing my arm. Everyone move. For a heartbeat, I thought Marco might shoot us in the back as we ran. Instead, I heard him screaming orders at his men. Find that detonator. Cut the wires. Move. The basement was a maze of pipes and shadows. Michael led us through corridors I hadn't even known existed, his hand gripping mine like a lifeline. Here, he yanked open a metal grate. The storm drains connect to the old subway tunnels. Behind us, I could hear the Torino men tearing the factory apart, searching for bomb components. 30 seconds, someone screamed. We crawled through the narrow drainage pipe, metal scraping against concrete, the sound of running water growing louder. Michael went first, pulling me after him, while Marco and his remaining men followed. 20 seconds. We tumbled out of the pipe into a wider tunnel just as the world above us exploded. The blast wave hit like a physical punch, throwing us against the tunnel walls. Chunks of concrete rained down, and the air filled with choking dust and smoke. Water from broken pipes cascaded around us. For several minutes, nobody moved. Then Marco's voice, rough with dust. "Is everyone alive?" A chorus of groans and confirmations echoed in the tunnel. Miraculously, we'd all made it. "My phone's dead," one of Marco's men reported. "EMP from the blast." Michael helped me to my feet. In the dim emergency lighting of the tunnel, his face was streaked with dirt and blood from a dozen small cuts. "You saved us all up there," he said quietly. "I saved myself. You just happened to benefit." But even as I said it, I knew it wasn't entirely true. For a moment, just a moment, it had felt like the old days. Like we were partners again. Marco approached, his expensive suit now torn and filthy. "If you're right about Kim Sun-hee," he said, "then we have a bigger problem than just revenge. The Koreans have been planning this for years. With both our organizations crippled, they'll move in on everything." "Then we stop them," I said simply. "We?" I looked between Marco and Michael, two men who'd been ready to kill me 10 minutes ago. "The way I see it, we all want the same thing now. We want to find Olivia or Sun-hee, or whatever her real name is, and we want to make her pay for manipulating us into destroying each other." Marco considered this. "And after?" "After, you and I settle the real debt. But we do it honestly, without puppet masters pulling our strings." He extended his hand.
Deal.
I shook it, feeling the weight of 5 years of hatred shifting into something else. Not forgiveness, not yet, but understanding. "So, where do we start?" Michael asked. I smiled grimly. "With the one advantage, she doesn't know we have." 3 hours later, we were in the ruins of my family's old warehouse, the one place in the city that Olivia, Sun-hee, had never managed to infiltrate. It had been abandoned since my father's death, but I'd kept the utilities running through a shell company. Old habits. Marco's remaining men had retrieved equipment from their cars, laptops, surveillance gear, and enough firepower to start a small war. It seemed the Torinos had come prepared for more than just an execution. "Here," I said, pulling up a section of the floor to reveal a hidden safe. My father's real records. Everything he kept off the books. Inside were documents dating back 20 years, detailed records of every deal, every negotiation, every enemy and ally, including several files marked Korean expansion, threat assessment. Michael spread the papers on an old table while Marco's tech specialist, a thin man named Carver, worked on bypassing the building's security systems. "Your father was thorough," Marco admitted, reading over financial reports. "These port contracts, Vincent really was getting majority control." "Look at this," Michael said, pointing to a photograph. Kim family organizational chart from 5 years ago. I leaned over his shoulder, our bodies close for the first time in years without violence between us. There, in the bottom corner of a group photo, was a young woman with different hair and eye color, but the same bone structure, the same predatory smile. "Kim Sun-hee," I breathed. "Youngest daughter of Kim Jong-soo. She's been deep cover for years," Marco said. "Long enough to establish the Olivia White identity, infiltrate our world, and set us at each other's throats." "But why wait 5 years to spring the trap?" Carver looked up from his laptop. "I've been monitoring police and emergency frequencies. The factory explosion is all over the news, but here's the interesting part. There are reports of simultaneous attacks on 3 other locations." He turned his screen toward us. Torino gambling operations, Evan's family legitimate businesses, and the old patriarch's social club. Professional hits, all coordinated. "She's cleaning house," I realized. "Eliminating anyone who might have survived to piece together the truth." "Which means she doesn't know we made it out alive," Michael added. Marco was already reaching for his phone. "I need to warn my people." "No." I caught his arm. "If you call them, she'll know we survived. We lose our only advantage. My family is already dead or safe. Either way, calling them now won't change anything." He stared at me for a long moment, then slowly put the phone away. "So, what's the plan?" I looked at the scattered papers, at the photo of Sun-hee, at the 2 men who'd been my enemies an hour ago. "We let her think she won. And while she's celebrating, we take everything she's worked for." 14. The Kim family's legitimate front was a high-end restaurant called Moonlight Garden, perched on the top floor of a downtown skyscraper. According to my father's files, it was also the nerve center of their entire operation. By evening, we'd established that Sun-hee was indeed there, likely reporting her success to her father. Surveillance showed increased security, multiple black cars in the parking garage, and what looked like a celebration in progress. 15 floors up, 2 stairwells, elevator access controlled by keycard, Carver reported. At least 20 armed guards, plus whatever family soldiers are attending the party. Suicide, Marco muttered. Not if we're smart about it, I said, studying the building schematics. Michael, do you still have contacts in the fire department?
A few.
Why? I smiled, remembering something my father had taught me years ago. The best way to clear a building full of enemies is to make them leave voluntarily. Because we're going to give the Kim family exactly what they've been planning for us. Fire. It took 2 hours to set up. Michael's contact in the fire department agreed to stage a routine inspection of the building's sprinkler system. Marco's remaining men positioned themselves at all exits, and I prepared to walk into the heart of enemy territory. The service elevator carried me up through floors of legitimate businesses, law firms, accounting offices, dental practices. All closed for the evening, all dark except for security lighting. Perfect cover for what was about to happen. On the 14th floor, I triggered the building's fire alarm system. Within minutes, the entire building was in controlled chaos. Elevators locked down, emergency lighting activated, and the systematic evacuation of every floor began, including, according to our surveillance, the hasty exodus of most of Kim's security team. I took the service stairs to the 15th floor and slipped into the restaurant through the kitchen entrance. The main dining room was elegant and expensive, all black lacquer and gold accents. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, the city spread out below like a constellation of lights. And there, at the head table, surrounded by her family, was Sun-hee. She'd changed again. Gone was the vulnerable Olivia White. This woman wore a sleek black dress and moved with the confident grace of someone who'd just achieved a lifetime goal. She was laughing at something her father said, a champagne glass in her manicured hand. I stepped out of the shadows, my gun trained on her heart. Hello, Sun-hee. Miss me? The laughter died instantly. Champagne glasses shattered on marble floors. And for the first time since I'd known her, I saw real fear in Olivia White's eyes. Did you really think a few explosions would be enough to kill me? I asked, moving closer. After everything I survived to get out of prison? After everything I've lost? Sun-hee's father, an elderly man with sharp eyes, spoke rapidly in Korean. His tone was clearly a command. He's telling you to kill me? I guessed. But here's the thing. I'm not here for you. I shifted my aim to Kim Jong-soo himself. I'm here for him. The man who ordered my parents' death. The man who's been pulling your strings all these years. Wait, Sun-hee said, her voice cracking. Rachel, wait. I can give you everything. Your parents' bodies, your mother's jewelry, proof of everything I've done. You're right. You can. I smiled, hearing the distant sound of sirens as the fire department responded to the alarm. And you're going to. But not because I'm letting you live. Because I'm taking you with me when I settle this debt. The old man reached for something under the table, probably a gun. I put a bullet in his shoulder before he could draw it. The real question, Sun-hee, is whether you want to die here with your family, or whether you want to live long enough to show me where my parents are buried. Outside, the sirens were getting closer. Soon this building would be crawling with firefighters and police. Choose fast, I said. Clock's ticking. Rachel, please. Michael's voice was barely a whisper, but I heard the desperation in it. The same desperation I'd carried for 5 years in that cold prison cell. Please what, Michael? Please let your precious Olivia live after she destroyed my parents' ashes? After she took everything from me? My finger tightened on the trigger. The gun felt heavy in my hands, weighted with 5 years of rage and betrayal. Rachel, you don't understand. I understand perfectly. I screamed, my voice echoing off the factory walls. I understand that you chose her. I understand that you threw away everything we had for some clean, innocent girl who wouldn't dirty her hands the way I did for you. Olivia sobbed behind Michael, clutching at his jacket. Michael, don't let her kill me. Please, I love you so much. The sound of her voice, so sickeningly sweet, was the last straw. I pulled the trigger, but Michael moved faster than I'd ever seen him move. In one fluid motion, he shoved Olivia aside and threw himself directly into the bullet's path. The gunshot exploded through the air. Michael's body jerked backward, a crimson bloom spreading across his chest. Time stopped. Michael Carter, the man who had once taken multiple stab wounds to save me, who had bled nearly to death in my arms, crumpled to the factory floor. No, 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 I know. I dropped the gun and rushed to him, my knees hitting the concrete so hard I felt them scrape raw. His blood was everywhere, warm and thick, soaking through his shirt. Michael, look at me. His eyes fluttered open, unfocused and growing dim. Blood frothed at the corner of his mouth. Rachel, he whispered, his voice so weak I had to lean down to hear him. Don't you dare die on me, Michael Carter. Don't you dare. My hands pressed against the wound, but blood kept seeping through my fingers. So much blood. Had to, he gasped, each word a struggle. Had to protect. Protect her? You threw your life away for her. He shook his head slightly, his hand weakly grasping mine. No, protect you. What? Olivia, she's not what you think. His breathing was becoming more labored. She's connected to the people who killed your parents. My world tilted. What are you talking about? The kidnapping 5 years ago wasn't random. They wanted revenge on your father. When you killed their boss, they wanted you dead. His grip on my hand tightened with what little strength he had left. Olivia, she was sent to get close to me, to find your weaknesses. I felt like I was drowning. You knew. Found out 3 months ago. Couldn't tell you they'd kill you. A tear rolled down his cheek, mixing with the blood. Had to make you hate me, had to make you stay away? Michael, no. The truth hit me like a physical blow. All this time, all his cruelty, his protection of Olivia, it was to save me. The pregnancy was fake. The ring meant nothing.
His voice was fading.
Only you, Rachel. Always only you. Behind us, I heard Olivia moving, but I couldn't take my eyes off Michael's face. You stupid, stupid man. I sobbed, pressing my forehead to his. I would have faced them with you. We could have fought them together. No, you'd already sacrificed 5 years for me. Couldn't let you sacrifice more. His breathing was becoming shallower. I could feel him slipping away. Michael, stay with me. Please, just stay with me. Rachel. His hand moved to touch my face, smearing blood across my cheek. Do you remember what I said the night I saved you? I nodded through my tears. Alive, I belong to you. Dead, I'm your ghost. Wrong, he whispered, his eyes locked on mine. Alive or dead, I belong to you. The light was fading from his eyes. I love you, I whispered desperately. I love you, Michael. I never stopped loving you. The faintest smile crossed his lips. I know. And then he was gone. Michael Carter, the man who had saved me, betrayed me, and saved me again, died in my arms on the cold factory floor. I sat there, holding his lifeless body, my tears mixing with his blood. The silence was deafening. Every heartbeat felt wrong, like my heart shouldn't be beating when his had stopped. Well, came Olivia's voice from behind me, no longer weak or frightened. That was rather touching. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. My world had narrowed to Michael's face, peaceful now in death, and the weight of his body against mine. You know, Rachel, I really should thank you. You've made this so much easier than I expected. Her voice was completely different now. Gone was the breathy, scared tone. This voice was cold, professional. Look at me when I'm talking to you. When I still didn't move, I felt the barrel of a gun press against the back of my head. I said, look at me. Slowly, I laid Michael's head gently on the concrete and turned around. What I saw made my blood run cold. The woman standing before me bore Olivia's face, but everything else was wrong. Her posture was different, confident, predatory. Her eyes, which had always seemed soft and innocent, now held a calculating hardness that reminded me of the killers I'd met in prison. There we go, she said with a smile that was nothing like the sweet expressions she'd shown Michael. Much better. You, I whispered, rage building in my chest like a wildfire. Me, she confirmed, circling me like a shark. Did you really think it was coincidence that I found Michael just months after you were released? That I got pregnant so conveniently? That I played the helpless victim so perfectly? I started to rise, but she pressed the gun harder against my head. Stay down. I'm not finished. My hands were still covered in Michael's blood. I could smell the metallic scent of it, could feel it drying sticky on my skin. You killed him. Actually, darling, you did that. She tilted her head with mock sympathy. Though I must admit, I didn't expect him to figure it out. He was smarter than I gave him credit for. Took him 3 months of digging, but he finally connected me to your parents' old enemies. The pieces were falling into place, each one like a knife to my heart. My parents died because your father made the mistake of crossing Viktor Kozlov. You remember Viktor, don't you? The man whose brain you scattered across that warehouse floor 5 years ago. I remembered. The man who had ordered Michael's torture, who had been about to kill us both. The man whose death had sent me to prison. Viktor was my brother. The words hit me like a physical blow. Half-brother, technically. Different fathers. But family is family, don't you think? She crouched down so we were eye level, the gun still trained on me. He raised me after our mother died. Taught me everything I know about patience, about planning, about revenge. The pregnancy. Fake, of course. Amazing what modern medicine can do. Hormone shots to mimic pregnancy symptoms, a few well-placed padding, some theatrical morning sickness. Men are so easy to fool when they think they're protecting an unborn child. I thought of all the times Michael had been extra gentle with her, extra protective, all because of a lie. And Michael believed it. Michael wanted to believe it. Guilt is a powerful motivator, Rachel. He felt guilty for loving you, a killer, a criminal. When I presented him with a chance to love someone clean, someone innocent, part of him leaped at the opportunity. Her words were designed to hurt, and they did. But underneath the pain, something else was growing. Something cold and final. But he never stopped loving you, she continued, her voice taking on a mocking tone. Even when I was in his bed, he whispered your name in his sleep. Even when I told him I was carrying his child, he looked at old photos of you, when he thought I wasn't watching. It was rather pathetic, actually. Get to the point. The point, darling, is that I've won. Viktor is avenged. Your parents are avenged. Michael is dead. And you, she stood up, backing away to a safe distance while keeping the gun trained on me. You're going to join them. I looked at her for a long moment, this woman who had orchestrated the destruction of everything I held dear. Then I started to laugh. Something funny? Olivia's confidence flickered for just a moment. You think you've won. Haven't I? Your lover is dead by your own hand. You're about to follow him. I'd call that a victory. I stood up slowly, ignoring the way she tensed, and adjusted her grip on the gun. You made one mistake, Olivia. Oh, and what's that? Olivia's voice carried a hint of uncertainty now, though she kept the gun steady. I wiped Michael's blood from my hands onto my clothes, never breaking eye contact with her. You assumed I had something left to lose. You have your life. What life? I laughed again, the sound echoing off the factory walls. 5 years in prison, watching the only man I ever loved fall in love with my enemy, discovering that everything I thought I knew was a lie? You call that a life? I took a step toward her. She took a step back. The woman who went to prison 5 years ago, she had something to lose. She had hope. She had dreams of coming home to the man she loved, of picking up where they left off. Another step forward. But you killed her, Olivia. You killed her slowly, methodically, over the past few months. Stay back. But her voice was shaking now. The woman standing in front of you? She died the moment Michael did. So go ahead. Pull that trigger. Send me to hell. But understand that you're not killing Rachel Evans. You're putting down a ghost. For a split second, her attention wavered. It was enough. I dove to the side just as she fired, the bullet sparking off the concrete where I'd been standing. Rolling behind some old machinery, I scrambled for the gun I'd dropped earlier. You can't hide from me forever, Rachel. Olivia's voice had turned shrill. This factory is empty. There's nowhere to run. She was wrong. I wasn't trying to run. I'd spent 5 years learning patience from the worst criminals in the state. I'd learned to move quietly, to think tactically, to strike when the moment was right. Olivia was trained, but she was also angry. Anger made people stupid. You know what the funny thing is? She called out, her footsteps echoing as she searched for me. Michael actually tried to get you to leave town. About a month ago, he came to me in tears, begging me to help him convince you to disappear. He'd found out who I really was, but he was so afraid they'd kill you that he was willing to sacrifice his own happiness to keep you safe. I closed my eyes, pain lancing through my chest. Even knowing the truth, it still hurt. He even offered to disappear with me, to give up everything and run away if I promised not to hurt you. Can you imagine? He was willing to spend the rest of his life with a woman he didn't love, just to protect you. My hand found the gun. I checked the chamber, 3 bullets left. But I told him no. I told him that the only way to keep you safe was to make you hate him so much that you'd never want to see him again. And the fool believed me. I could hear her getting closer, her footsteps careful but determined. He threw himself into the role, made himself sick pretending to love me, pretending to choose me over you. All because he thought it would save your life.
She was close now.
Maybe 10 feet away, moving around the machinery that concealed me. The irony is beautiful, don't you think? He died trying to save you, and you're about to die anyway. All that sacrifice for nothing. I saw her shadow on the wall before I saw her. When she rounded the corner, gun raised, I was ready. Hello, Olivia. She spun toward my voice, but I was already moving. The first shot took her in the shoulder, spinning her around. The second caught her in the stomach, doubling her over. She fell to her knees, her gun clattering away across the concrete. You bitch, she gasped, blood frothing at her lips. I walked over to where she knelt, the gun still in my hand. Tell me about my parents. What? You said they didn't die quickly. Tell me what happened to them. She looked up at me, hatred burning in her eyes, even as life leaked out of her. Why would you want to know? Because I want to understand the kind of monster I'm dealing with. She coughed, blood splattering the concrete. Your father, he begged. At the end, he begged us not to hurt your mother. Offered us everything he had, money, territory, information, if we'd just let her live. My finger tightened on the trigger. And my mother? She was braver than him. Even when we started cutting, she never made a sound. Just kept saying your name, over and over. Rachel, Rachel, Rachel. Olivia's smile was grotesque, painted in blood. It was almost touching. The gun felt light in my hand.
Easy.
I want you to know something before you die, I said quietly. What's that? Victor died like a coward. When I put that gun to his head, he pissed himself. Literally. The great Victor Kozlov wet himself like a child. I crouched down, so we were eye level, and in about 30 seconds, you're going to join him in hell. You think killing me will bring them back? Will bring Michael back? No, I said simply, but it will make me feel better. I pressed the barrel of the gun to her forehead. Any last words?
She spat blood at me.
See you in hell, Rachel Evans. I'll be the one wearing the crown. I pulled the trigger. The gunshot echoed through the factory like thunder, then faded into silence. Olivia White, or whoever she really was, slumped forward, her eyes staring sightlessly at the concrete floor. I stood over her body for a long moment, waiting to feel something. Satisfaction. Relief.
Victory.
Instead, I felt empty. Hollow. Walking back to Michael, I knelt beside him and gently lifted his head into my lap. His skin was growing cold, but his face looked peaceful. Almost like he was sleeping. It's over, I whispered to him, smoothing his hair back from his forehead. She can't hurt anyone anymore. The silence in the factory was complete now. No more gunshots, no more screaming, no more lies. Just peace. I thought about the first time I'd met Michael. I was 19, fresh out of college, and working as my father's translator during a business meeting. Michael had been 23, my father's newest and most promising lieutenant. He'd made me laugh during that first meeting, cracking quiet jokes while the older men discussed serious business. After the meeting, he'd asked me to dinner. I'd said yes. We'd been so young then. So innocent despite the world we lived in. I'd thought we had forever. Do you remember our first date? I asked his still form. You took me to that little Italian place on 5th Street. You were so nervous you knocked over your wine glass, and it stained the tablecloth red. I traced the outline of his face with my finger. You said it looked like blood, and you were worried it was a bad omen. I told you not to be superstitious. I laughed softly. The sound strange in the empty factory. I guess you were right to worry. In the distance, I could hear sirens. Someone must have reported the gunshots. Harris probably called them, I told Michael. He always was protective of you, even more than he was of me. I looked around the factory, at the bodies, at the blood, at the remnants of our shattered lives. I used to think we could go back, I continued. When I was in prison, I'd lie in my cell and imagine coming home to you. Imagine us picking up where we left off, like none of the bad things had ever happened. The sirens were getting closer. But we were never going to be who we were in our youth again, were we? Too much blood. Too much pain. Too many choices we couldn't take back. I leaned down and kissed his forehead. I understand now why you did what you did. You were trying to save me the only way you knew how. And maybe if I'd been smarter, if I'd trusted you more, we could have found another way. The factory door exploded inward as a SWAT team stormed in, their weapons trained on me. Drop your weapon. Hands where we can see them. I looked down at the gun still clutched in my hand, then slowly placed it on the floor beside Michael's body. Ma'am, step away from the body and put your hands behind your head. I stood slowly, my hands raised. As they approached me with handcuffs, I took one last look at Michael's face. I'll see you soon, I whispered. The handcuffs clicked into place, cold metal against my wrists. As they read me my rights, I barely listened. The words didn't matter anymore. Nothing mattered anymore. They led me out of the factory into the harsh light of day. News vans were already arriving, reporters shouting questions I didn't answer. I kept my eyes forward, focused on some point in the distance. As they put me in the back of the police car, I caught sight of Harris in the crowd. He looked older than I remembered, his face etched with grief and something that might have been understanding. Our eyes met for just a moment before the car door closed. The drive to the police station passed in a blur. They put me in an interrogation room and left me alone for what felt like hours. I sat at the metal table, staring at my hands. Michael's blood was still under my fingernails. When the detective finally came in, he was younger than I expected. Clean cut, probably mid-30s. The kind of man who'd never killed anyone, never held someone he loved while they died. Ms. Evans, I'm Detective Morrison. I'd like to ask you some questions about what happened at the factory. I looked at him for a long moment, then spoke my first words since leaving the factory. I killed them both. He blinked, clearly not expecting such a straightforward confession. You're admitting to the murders of Michael Carter and Olivia White? I'm admitting to shooting them both. Whether it was murder. I shrugged. I suppose that's for a jury to decide. He pulled out a tape recorder and set it on the table between us. This is Detective Morrison interviewing Rachel Evans regarding the deaths of Michael Carter and Olivia White. Ms. Evans, you've waived your right to an attorney. I don't need a lawyer. Can you tell me what happened at the factory? I looked at him, this clean young man who thought he understood the world, and began to speak. I told him about the kidnapping, about Michael's choice to save Olivia instead of me. I told him about Olivia's revelation, about Michael's death, about my final confrontation with the woman who had destroyed everything I loved. I didn't tell him about Michael's last words, about the truth of his sacrifice. Some things were too sacred to share with strangers. When I finished, Detective Morrison sat back in his chair, his expression unreadable. Ms. Evans, do you understand the charges you're likely to face? Does it matter? You could be looking at life in prison, possibly the death penalty. I almost laughed. Detective, I've been dead for 5 years. The only thing keeping me alive was the hope of seeing Michael again. Now that he's gone. I shrugged. Now there's nothing left to live for. 3 months later, I stood in a courtroom as a judge sentenced me to life, without parole for the murder of Olivia White. The Michael Carter shooting was ruled justifiable homicide after evidence surfaced about Olivia's true identity and the conspiracy against me. I felt nothing as the gavel came down. They transferred me to a maximum security facility upstate, to a cell much like the one I'd occupied for 5 years. The only difference was that this time, I knew I'd never be getting out. I didn't mind. Prison was appropriate for a ghost. Sometimes, late at night, I'd dream about Michael. In my dreams, we were young again, sitting in that little Italian restaurant, laughing about spilled wine and bad omens. In my dreams, we had forever. But I always woke up, and in the harsh light of morning, in the silence of my cell, I'd remember the truth. We were never as we were in our youth. We could never go back. Too much had happened. Too much had been lost. But maybe that was okay. Maybe some love stories aren't meant to have happy endings. Maybe some love is so intense, so destructive, that it can only end in tragedy. Michael had been right about one thing, alive or dead. We belonged to each other. And soon enough, I'd be joining him wherever souls like ours end up. Until then, I had my memories. I had the ghost of his touch, the echo of his voice, the weight of his love. It would have to be enough. 3 years into my sentence, I received a letter. The return address was from Harris, though I hadn't spoken to him since the day of my arrest. Inside was a single photograph, Michael and me at my 21st birthday party, before everything went wrong. We were dancing, his arms around me, both of us laughing at something I couldn't remember anymore. On the back, in Harris's careful handwriting, were the words, "He kept this in his wallet until the day he died." I held the photograph until the paper grew soft with my tears, and for the first time in 3 years, I smiled. We had been happy once. Whatever else had happened, whatever darkness had consumed us, we had been happy.